Do you ever feel like you're swimming upstream and into a strong current as you battle against temptation? Well, you are not alone. I feel that way often. Even the guy who wrote most of the New Testament felt that way. Paul says in Romans 7 that things I shouldn't do, I do, and the things I should do, I don't do. Paul also says in 1 Corinthians 10 that the temptations I face are not new. Satan has been using the same kinds of temptations for thousands of years. He just packages them differently at times. And so I'm often asking myself, why is it so difficult to do the right things, especially in the areas where I seem to have the greatest vulnerability? You see, I can look at the areas I don't struggle with and wonder how in the world you could struggle with those things. But honesty requires me to recognize that we are all wired differently. That applies not only to my strengths and to my spiritual makeup, but it also applies to my vulnerabilities. Satan knows what buttons to push to ramp up my temptation. He wants us to fall. He wants us to be ineffective for the Lord. So what should I do about it? Is there a way to escape, as the Bible says? Or should I just give up and give in? In James 1, 14 through 16, James explains the progression of temptation. He says it starts when we are drawn to something. We are enticed, and it is fueled by our own evil, selfish desires. So it might begin by seeing a beautiful woman, or a luxurious car we've really been wanting to buy, or that person who wronged us. Initially, it's innocent enough. The beautiful woman just happened to be there. You were at the auto dealership for an oil change and you saw that new car that would be perfect for you. You were in town and just happened to run into that person who wronged you. All innocent enough. But then after the innocent encounter, something inside you or me, it's our sin nature, our selfish desires. Satan uses that to begin stirring the pot. You deserve that beautiful woman, or at least deserve to stare at her and think about her even though you're married. You deserve that car. After all, you need a car that's better than your friends, that shows everyone that you're successful. And that guy, wow, you've held it in long enough. You really deserve to give him a piece of your mind, and he really deserves to get it. Now, all of these things happen in us at warp speed. And as this is unfolding in our minds, we have to decide whether we will allow the temptation to cause us to sin. James says the progression goes from entertaining Satan's bait to thinking how much you have to have it, to then grabbing onto something God says no to. That's called sin. And when sin runs its course, it leads to destruction and to death. One of the most vital moments in this process of temptation is when you begin dwelling on and justifying why this thing God says is wrong is really right for you. Now, in that moment, you can either ignore God and do your own thing and fall to the temptation, or you can cry out to God for help. It doesn't have to be a long prayer, but you have to agree that you are in danger and that you need God. We'll talk more about temptation and how to handle it God's way in future videos, but hopefully this video has helped you to see how the process of temptation may play out in your own life and circumstances. And that is the gospel in everyday life.